people on Empire State have left already, or as I put it, evicted already. They claim that we're going to get two choices. Really, I don't think it's even a choice. Really what it is eviction, because they will stay where we're going to go. Of course, I have other people at the moment, but every step of the way it's going to be really, really difficult. Some people will just give up and then remain obviously.
Doing this appeal, I don't know.
I think he hates the Australian government for the way they've abandoned it.
Well, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Who cannot tremble with indignation at the idea that the man that blew the whistle on the war crimes is in Belmarsh and the war criminals are on the BBC and ITV and raking in millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds for the state in this country.
I'm not sure.
Folks, we're here to stand up for some justice for Julian Assange, whose only crime is reporting crimes of politicians and public officials to the people. So that
Are over the night to shut out.
In 2015, Ukraine refrained from engineering.
I have been following closely and speaking up for Julian Assange for 10 years now. Julian Assange has won more than 27 journalistic awards, including the Walkley Award for Outstanding Contribution to Journalism. The Australian government should and must show integrity, courage and decency and tell the USA and UK governments to put a stop to this cruel, sadistic persecution of Julian Assange. Niels Melzer, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, has stated that Julian Assange has suffered prolonged exposure to psychological torture. Australian doctors for Assange have warned he could die in jail in coming months with life-threatening cardiovascular and stress. Last year, Julian Assange suffered a stroke. This is not just about Julian Assange, it's about being informed. It's about our rights to know what our governments are doing behind closed doors. It's about treating journalists like criminals when they expose corruption. The persecution of Julian Assange is a mockery of justice. USA's prosecutor's main witness, a pedophile and a criminal, Sigurdur Thordarson, lied about Julian in exchange for American immunity. At one session, Julian, in a bulletproof glass box at the back of the room, could not hear what was being said. A small slit at the bottom of the glass cage he used to pass messages to his lawyers. Julian, his lawyers, his visitors were all spied on and videotaped, even in the toilets. Conversations between Julian and his lawyers also spied on in the Ecuadorian embassy. The urgency and need to secure the release of acclaimed journalist Julian Assange from a high security prison is passing concern for many in the world. Last of all, Julian Assange is my Australian fellow. Julian has always showed and defended victims of torture and corruption, those without a voice. What happened? He ended up himself a victim of torture and his voice silenced. Drop the charges, bring Julian Assange home.
Yes.
Thank you.
Woo!
Yeah,
Somewhere else.
In 2 weeks' time, there's going to be a statue erected here beside us in St Andrew's Square. It's a statue depicting Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and Chelsea Manning, the three modern heroes of free speech and your right to know. The statue has come from Europe all the way to Australia. It's taken an enormous effort to get it here, and it'll be erected over here. I'm not sure for how long, it's only temporary. So I suggest if you want to see it and actually be part of it, it's an interactive piece of artwork. There are 4 chairs depicted with the 3 heroes standing on 3 of the 4 chairs. The 4th chair is for you to stand on and have your say. The statue is called Anything to Say, a monument to courage. So please, in 2 weeks, put it in your diary, the 10th of March, Friday the 10th of March at 6 p.m. in St Andrew's Square, right beside us here. That statue will be erected, and there'll be some speakers here. There'll be a lot of commotion here. It'll be a big day for all of us, and it'll be a huge day for the community of Assange supporters, millions of us around the world. And Gong Steve will be there and he will record the whole event. And if you want to stand on the 4th chair and you have anything to say, then it will be recorded. It will be published on Gong Steve YouTube channel. That's GONGSTEVE, one word, Gong Steve. So please come in 2 weeks. Come next week, but if you can't make it next week, the following week's going to be a big one. So come to Town Hall in 2 weeks on the 10th of March. Look forward to seeing you all here. Thank you. Welcome to the 170th week of Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gatherings. The corruption of democracy is real. Julian Assange is completely innocent, but he continues to be persecuted by governments which proclaim themselves as democratic. In little more than a month, Julian will have been held in His Majesty's prison, Belmarsh, under solitary confinement for 4 years. The United Nations considers any more than 14 days of solitary confinement as torture. This political persecution would be impossible within a real democracy if we had prime ministers who truly believed in democracy. They would have fought for Julian's freedom. The current one, like all his predecessors, is next to silent. He says he is engaged in, quote, quiet diplomacy. So quiet that nobody can hear it. The kind of words we might expect from someone who sees absolutely no value in democracy or in standing up for human rights of an Australian citizen. The first duty of a Prime Minister is to defend the human rights of his citizens. We have had years to realise that we cannot rely on our government leaders when it comes to acting democratically on behalf of the people. This is not because democracy is failing, it's because democracy doesn't exist. We are living in a non-transparent, hierarchical system which has been dressed up to give the appearance of a democracy. Many people are no longer buying this illusion of democracy and are waking up. Those at the top of the hierarchy must do something if they are to avoid losing their position of control. They will want to avoid a democratic uprising. They have signalled their intention to make use of new digital technologies to shift us into a technocratic paradigm. Under this new paradigm, people will have no option but to submit to mass surveillance, already happening, biometric digital identification, about to be brought in through MyGov, and a central bank digital currency in the planning stages. And after that, the final blow, as we can see in China right now, a social credit system. There will still be freedom, but that freedom will be conditional. based upon your behaviour. You will have freedom as long as that freedom doesn't conflict with the needs of those who control the system and in turn control you. If we wish to live decent lives, it is clear we must actively engage in the fight for real democracy and real freedom. We must resist the control of these undemocratic forces by nurturing independent thought and free speech so that we can create a democratic unity. We must recognise that freedom of speech is the right of everyone. Free speech should never be limited to government or corporate-backed media. Julian Assange is a hero for the evidence he courageously published. We must all realise that the right to publish information which contradicts mainstream propaganda narrative belongs to all of us. We must not allow anyone to convince us otherwise. We must all come together in unity to fight the corruption of our democracy. We must all stand up for Julian Assange. Free, free Julian Assange. Free, free Julian Assange. Free, free Julian Assange. Free, free Julian Assange. Thank you. Yes, thank you, sir.
How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer, blowing in the wind. How many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? How many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? How many deaths will it take till he knows too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer, blowing in the wind. How many years must the people exist before they're allowed to be free? And how many times can a man turn his head, pretend that he just doesn't see? How many years will a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer, blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. the answer blowing in the wind. Since I don't know when I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, time keeps dragging on, but the train just keeps on moving down to San Antonio. I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't you ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. And when I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head, I cry. I bet there's rich folks eating in their fancy dining car, probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. I knew I had it coming. I know I can't be free, but that train just keeps on moving, and that's what tortures me. If they free me from this prison, if the railroad was mine, I'd probably move it on a little further down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I'd wanna stay, and I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues right on away. Thank you. I thank Billy and Tony on backup vocals and strange dancing. So we're here this afternoon, or this evening rather. We're here every Friday because there's an Australian citizen and journalist called Julian Assange who's incarcerated in Britain. He's currently in solitary confinement in His Majesty's prison, Belmarsh. And we're of no doubt that he should be freed. And we're calling upon our government, led by Anthony Albanese, to call on the American government to drop the charges against him.
You're a breath of fresh air,
They say every man needs protection, yet every man must fall. But I swear I see my reflection someplace so high above the wall. I see my light go shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any way now, I shall be released. They say everything can be replaced, yet every distance is not near. So I remember every face of every man who put me here. I see been framed. I see my light go shining from the west down to the east. Anyway now, any day now, I shall be released. I see my light go shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any way now, I shall be released.
We are all Assange.